O'Reilly. Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free and provides a report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we can recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Riddle me this, pod fans. What's 90 minutes long, arrives every Friday, and is all about the Cape Crusader? Why, it's Blabbin' 'Bout Batman, the animated series, the newest Patreon-exclusive podcast miniseries on the Talking Simpsons network.
That's right. For the rest of 2021, we'll be covering our 10 favorite episodes of Batman, the animated series, with the same heavy-duty research, clips, and trivia you've come to expect from us. And if you sign up at the $5 level today at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons, you'll get to hear each episode as soon as it goes live.
Remember, sign up at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons to hear all 10 episodes of Blabbin' 'Bout Batman, the animated series, as well as the 100+ other exclusive podcast episodes we produced so far. So become a patron and join us through the rest of 2021 for another great miniseries. Same bat day, same bat podcast feed.
Cartoons from present in the past. Every week will be an animated bash. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! Maybe a short but mostly shows. We'll talk, we'll analyze, exploring as we go. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! What a cartoon! What a cartoon!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to What a Cartoon, where we proudly wear European-style briefs. I'm one of your hosts, the Golden Knife wielder, Bob Mackey. This is an audio exploration of every cartoon ever. Who is here with me today?
Hey, it's Henry Gilbert, and it's not as nice a name as Lawrence, I must admit. Is that a name you can set your watch to?
And this week's episode is the Brak Show episode, President's Dad.
I'm tired of being pushed around like a stolen shopping cart full of rotten pumpkin meat.
So, of course, this is the 20th anniversary year of Adult Swim. It started in 2001, and to date, we have covered every one of the first-year Adult Swim shows except for this one. So, obviously, we need to give Brak his due, and it is well-deserved.
Yeah, so from the top, it was home movies. It was Aqua Teen Hunger Force. It was C-Lab. We've done Space Ghost Coast to Coast, and we've done Cowboy Bebop. So there's only one left, and it's, I'd say, the least loved of the original group, perhaps.
The least appreciated.
Not fairly. I think Brak deserves all this love as well.
We need Brak more now than ever, I will say. So, history with the Brak Show. I have given my Adult Swim history, I don't know, 8 times now, but I'll just do it really briefly in case you haven't heard it. I was reviewing anime at the time. My editor sent me a tape of the first night of Adult Swim about a few weeks before it aired. I watched it and I said, this is great, but no one will ever like this but me. It turns out it was a big hit. Everyone liked it, and that's where I first saw the Brak Show, and I watched Adult Swim for like the first 10 years pretty faithfully, and then kind of dropped off because I stopped accessing cable, and I just wasn't as interested after like all the Tim and Eric stuff ended. But always loved Brak back when he first started in the mid to late 90s, and I followed him to the Brak Show, and I think this is a very enjoyable, and like I said earlier, an underappreciated show.
Oh, yeah. Brak was a favorite of mine all before Adult Swim, and then once Adult Swim started, it was my least favorite of the first set, which I wasn't ready for because I love Space Ghost Coast to Coast. I love all the associated shows as well, and Brak was one of my favorites because the voice of Brak is so funny. He just could say anything, and it made me laugh. But I think by the time I was 19, when I saw the Brak Show, it wasn't as cutting edge as like the meanness of Aqua Teen or C-Lab.
I need fast food items that live next door to a sex offender.
Yes, and this is a wackier show than a mean show, I'd say. Maybe I had grown out of the musical goofery of the show, which I love now. And yeah, since rewatching it, I have rediscovered I love how much this wastes time. Like that's and I had a Brak shirt in high school. I did. So
I'm coveting one now. I'm trying to find a freshly printed Brak shirt to wear around.
I was proudly walking around with my Brak shirt all around high school, being judged by people's like, who is this loser wearing a thing that I've never heard of?
Let's get him.
And friend of the show, Danhausen, the pro wrestler, I saw him over a multi-video blog series on a quest for one of the Brak action figures.
Okay.
Like Brak is a favorite of his as well.
That's funny because I was on Amazon looking up any sort of Brak merchandise, and there was one left in the store, and it was an action figure of mom and dad together.
What?
Yes,
Oh, wow.
for $20. Probably made back in like the early aughts.
Wow, I figured Brak had an action figure just from the Space Ghost group, but I didn't know it extended to mom and dad. Wow.
I want to talk about history, though, because going into this, I thought I'm in the middle of doing the Batman series, and Brak will be an easy episode to do. It ran for 3 seasons. It was part of the Space Ghost factory. Brak's history is actually super deep and super rich, and I spent a long time digging into the character of Brak, his breakout success, and the decline of Brak.
Oh, awesome.
It was like a 6 or 7 year phenomenon that we both lived through as millennials.
Yeah, it was a huge part of our teen years, I would guess, the rise and fall of Brak. Yeah.
So I want to give some context first that we've covered in the past, but it's been a few years. But, Space Ghost Coast to Coast, that starts in 1994. Listen to our episode about that. And the spin-off Cartoon Planet starts in 1995. Now, I did not get Cartoon Network until 1996, so Cartoon Planet was airing on TBS, and that is how I met Space Ghost and Brak and Zorak and all of their fun songs and skits. So when I finally saw Coast to Coast, I was like, these interviews are boring. Make more skits and songs. What are you doing?
I did prefer Coast to Coast to Cartoon Planet just a little bit, but there is something to be said for Cartoon Planet, just of like a scene is as long as it's gonna be, and once it's over, it exists like independent of anything else. It can just be like stacked together with something else. It could be all host segments or host segments around a cartoon. Either way, it's just as long as it lasts, and it's just really characters. Three voice actors goofing around.
Yeah, a lot of improv. To give our audience more context about what Cartoon Planet was, like many productions in the early days of cable, it was a way of repackaging library content by creating cheap new bumpers to go around the material. That is kind of what Mystery Science Theater was, although a lot more work went into it because they were writing 2 hours worth of jokes per episode.
Meanwhile, Cartoon Planet was, it's a Two Stupid Dogs cartoon, but Zorak and Space Ghost are going to like sing a song.
Yeah, Brak's going to sing about beans, or Zorak will have like dating advice. But the earliest version of Cartoon Planet was an hour-long showcase of Hanna-Barbera crap. But it did include these interstitial segments, and these interstitial segments became so popular they eventually got rid of the material between them and then made 22 episodes of just those segments.
Sometimes the segments are like they could go on a little long, but I like their screaming and yelling all the time. I remember a classic one where everybody just starts yelling at each other, and they're yelling so much that Moltar shows up and he says, "Wait, is this the other show? I thought everybody's yelling at each other."
Moltar did make appearances because he was voiced by Clay Croker, so he was just in the room.
But I guess, Cartoon Planet was like the 12 and up version of the then 14 and up Space Ghost,
It was much more for kids, but even though I was, 13 or 14 when I started watching it, I was like, I can't get enough of these shows that shouldn't be on TV.
Yes.
It's a show that barely exists. It barely has the right to be a show, but it's so much fun to watch.
And I mean, all the songs, I listen to that, I'm sure you'll get to it, but I listen to the songs quite a lot independent of the show as well.
Me too, often in my car. So now a segment I want to call Who is Brak? Because we have to go back to 1966 because obviously these characters from Coast to Coast and Cartoon Planet and the Brak Show, they all come from the forgettable 20 episode run of the original Space Ghost, and I think he was paired with something like called Cave Boy or something.
Yeah, it's like Cave Boy and the dinosaur, and sometimes Mytor. I think he was with Mytor as well, but just part of this action block of mid 60s cartoons that Hanna-Barbera was doing, cresting off of the success of the Marvel Age of Comics that had been going on since 62. So, and then of course, as we cover in Itchy and Scratchy and Marge episode of The Simpsons, those action cartoons were targeted by groups like SNA that felt that these were far too violent to be showing to kids on TV. Though I should also say that group was very against commercials to children, which I think is a good cause, but stopping commercials to children, I should say.
They warped our minds.
Yes,
they forced us to buy things. But Brak first appears in the October 22nd, 1966 segment, The Lure. And Space Ghost episodes traditionally had 3 segments. And I believe Brak, out of the entire run of episodes, he's in maybe like 3 segments of Space Ghost. So a very, very minor Space Ghost villain out of like the 8 Space Ghost villains they had.
Yeah, he's not a particularly compelling one.
No.
Or interesting like Zorak is. But this was the magic of Coast to Coast, like beyond just the stoner writing of it, and the great voice acting, is that Alex Toth's designs of all the super things he designed for Hanna-Barbera, the Space Ghost and his Rogue Gallery are such compelling, interesting drawings that also barely move in their original cartoons, so they will work perfectly no matter where they go.
Part of why Brak is fun is because he's a very good Alex Toth design.
With just a cool like helmet and jaw coming out, and you're like, is this a Catman? Is this like this
the little helmet cape too?
Yes,
it's not hair. It's just like a weird like helmet cape. I don't know what you call that.
And his gloves, everything about him, I just love Alex Toth's original design. Yeah.
So Brak, originally played by Chinese American actor Key Luke, and you're wondering why a Chinese American actor? They weren't being cast in a lot of things. Well, that's because he was definitely a Yellow Peril character, like the wily Chinese, which is why Brak has long whiskers.
Yeah.
Originally, because he is like a Fu Manchu style villain.
Now I see what I view as his jawline as being a version of a Fu Manchu. And then on top of that, his eyes now feel like a choice. Yeah.
But recontextualized, he's a fun guy from Ohio. Yes, I have a clip of this. Actually, it was very hard to find Space Ghost clips online. I don't know why. It should just be available free, the old series. Just show it to me. It's crap. I just need context. But here is the voice of the original Brak from the 1960s.
Of course. Follow it and attack.
So yeah, not really going for a strong Chinese accent, but the flavor is there.
I think Key Luke was like the only Asian voice actor the H&B studio knew at the time.
Probably.
Yeah. I definitely don't think they had more than him on their Charlie Chan show. I feel pretty sure of that.
So yes, obviously Brak is recycled into Space Ghost Coast to Coast as one of the many characters they can choose from. And he
just sits on a pile of unused characters for like 3 decades pretty much.
And you can be like, well, that's a fun guy. What can he sound like? So Brak had his Urkel-style breakout episode in 1994 when a special episode hit the air. Let me play the promo for that episode before I play the actual Brak clip. So here is the promo for that very special episode.
Ready? Go.
Hey kids, I'm Santa. Ho ho ho. Look what the Cartoon Network is stuffing your Christmas stocking with. On Christmas Eve, we've got Charlotte's Web. That's right, the classic Pig and Spider Tale. Followed by a whole hour of Dr. Seuss. And then, oh look, it's me singing Christmas carols in a Space Ghost Christmas special. And on Christmas Day, tune in for 6 hours of holiday tune movies, followed by even more great tunes, and finally, Johnny Questmas. How we doing on time?
What?
So yeah, I'm sorry, Gen Xers, but that shows what a wasteland Cartoon Network was. It's Christmas Eve. You want to watch Charlotte's Web?
That was premium stuff. That was like technically a movie. They didn't show that much, but yeah, who cares?
Johnny Questmas, but Space Ghost had a Christmas special on Christmas Eve of '94. Were you there, Henry?
I was. I watched that Christmas special every time they replayed it every year. It's how I learned about Gabba Gabba Hey Gabba Hey Hey Hey, like just all the tunes to it. And yeah, I know why one dude really broke out of it for sure.
Yes. So during the singing of the 12 Days of Christmas, one character in particular became a very big hit with the audience. Let's hear the clip.
On the first day of Christmas, my true love came to me.
Hi, my name is Brak.
On the second day of Christmas, my true love came to me. 2 plus 8 is 10.
Hi, my name is Brak.
So yeah, that was the debut of the 90s version of Brak. Out of all the crazy voices you hear, I'm not going to play the whole song, but each villain has a really wacky voice. Brak is the one that stuck because you just never heard a voice like that on TV, and it's impossible to imitate. Only Andy Merrill can do that voice.
Yeah. Oh man, I now see why we all fell in love with him then, because hearing Andy Merrill just say, "Hi, my name is Brak" a dozen times in a row, surrounded by other crazy people. Well, I guess that really also shows how much Andy Merrill's voice just stands out, because every other person who's like, he is just so like friendly and goofy and just that.
Very monotone in this first appearance.
And once you hear, "Hi, my name is Brak," you're like, "Oh, this character's name's Brak." Not only do I find him interesting, but I instantly know what his name is.
Can I buy his T-shirt?
Yeah.
So yes, apparently Brak made a big impact on the audience. Here's a quote from the voice actor Andy Merrill. Don't worry, we'll do a bio on him very soon. So Andy Merrill says, quote, "We went to our first comic convention in Atlanta and we played some of the episodes at a panel, and there weren't very many people in the room, but everyone would say, 'All hail Brak,' and 'Hi, my name is Brak,' every time they would pass our table and stuff. So we knew he was starting to get popular."
Oh, that's nice, man. That's how, in the pre-internet days, it was shouted at a convention. That's how you learned.
And actually, Brak appeared before this in the very first episode with Sisto, but they were a Beavis and Butthead parody voiced by C. Martin Croker.
Right.
So
right.
in his first appearance, Brak sounds like Beavis.
Yeah, that's right. They're like watching the TV and commenting on it even. Yeah, because I think the clip that they would pull from for that is like, there's a shot from the original episode where Brak is talking to a very similar looking Brak guy and like ordering him around as he watches something on TV.
Lots of people looking at monitors in the original Space Ghost show for some reason.
Which works perfectly to translate that and reuse that footage for Space Ghost.
So TBS orders Cartoon Planet. That started airing in September of 95. Brak kept getting a good response, so they kept putting in more and more shows. And when they started asking for listener mail, Brak was getting all the listener mail. So thanks to public demand, Brak became an institution on Cartoon Planet. Like there was no social media yet. The internet barely existed, but just by the sheer amount of fan mail for Brak, they're like, let's use Brak as much as possible.
Yeah, as Cartoon Planet kept going, it definitely seemed like Space Ghost was there to say, "Oh, hey, I'm going to introduce letters to Brak now. Take it away, Brak."
Yeah.
And he just kind of steps backwards.
Again, he was the Urkel breakout.
Which is funny because, like, Zorak was the Urkel first. Like, he was like, it's almost like, oh, I'm the funny sidekick everybody liked, and then Brak showed up and made Zorak less important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even, like, I'm sorry for the Urkel comparisons, but, like, there's the same amount of time where Urkel shows up almost. It's like about a season happens, and then Urkel wanders in, and it's like, well, there's our star right there.
Or it's like on Happy Days when like Potsy probably thought like, "Oh, I'm Potsy, the breakout guy. Everybody loves me. I'm funny." There, he's like, "No, Fonzie's who we love."
And he said, "Sit on it, Fonzie."
Yeah.
Now, I talked about this on our Space Ghost episode, or I think we both did. It's important to note just how much the popularity of Cartoon Planet began to eclipse Space Ghost Coast to Coast. It was on more often. They made more of it because it was much easier to make. They didn't need to work around interviews. It was a lot of improv, so there was just so much of it, and it was getting very, very popular. And in fact, it produced 3 soundtrack albums in the late 90s.
Wow. Yeah, I think I only had one of these, but I mean, in the factors of cable too, consider that TBS was like, if you had even the lowest form of cable, in America, you probably had the super station.
Before we got the higher tier basic cable like Comedy Central and Cartoon Network, I was watching this on TBS.
Yeah, TBS was that was like, it was like that and WGN were like 17 and 19 on my channels, which were where cable began in my area. And yeah, I guess I always loved TBS as a boy who grew up in Atlanta and like, oh, it's the big city, the CNN building. Like I
can watch the Braves.
Yes, the Braves. I was a kid who, I know.
Well, Henry's doing the tomahawk chop right now.
I take back every tomahawk chop I ever did. I didn't know better. I was a dumb kid. I'm sorry. But
we'll talk about CNN soon.
Okay.
So yeah, Cartoon Planet, a huge hit. 3 albums. There's Modern Music for Swinging Superheroes. That was a promotional album in 96. There's Space Ghost Musical Barbecue in 97. And Space Ghost Surf and Turf in 98. It should be noted, Space Ghost was not like a major part of Cartoon Planet because he's voiced by George Lowe. George Lowe is not a writer. He's very funny, but a lot of this is Andy Merrill and C. Martin Croker goofing around in a booth.
The funny stuff of goofing around that Space Ghost does is when he just becomes George Lowe acting and just going like, or him complaining about being an actor, just like, well, I showed up on time. I guess everybody else didn't.
We're going to hear George Lowe himself pretty soon. So I wanted to note, on a personal note, I desperately coveted these albums. They came out when I was a teenager, but I would always be at Best Buy with my friends and they would make fun of me mercilessly if they saw me buying a Space Ghost album. That is the peer pressure we should be worried about. Friends who won't let their friends buy Cartoon Network soundtracks.
They thought you should have been buying, Limp Bizkit.
Oh, for sure.
Slipknot.
Metallica.
This silly little cover of, a barbecue with like 3 colorful cartoon characters characters, and it's just like, no, it's a wacky cartoon show, and they sing stupid songs. And then if you look at the listing on the back, like, hoodly hoo, what day is it?
It looks like a baby soundtrack, but it's for grown adults with a good sense of humor. And as soon as I got a car, I burned a ton of those to my CD player. CDR, rather.
I think I did own Barbecue and maybe Surf and Turf, but Barbecue, I think, also is one that I did not put on the shelf next to my cooler CDs. It was one I kept in a drawer or something. Anyhow,
the Brak drawer.
And once like you said, once I could rip it, then it was on CDRs. That's where I put it.
So after 6 seasons and 76 episodes, Space Ghost Coast to Coast is seemingly over in 1999, and then Cartoon Planet ends before that because after a Time Warner merger, they want a ton more Space Ghost, and it's all hands on deck to make more of that.
Okay, that makes sense. And, well, I mean, TBS, I'm sure Cartoon Planet does well, but I think TBS didn't want any kids' daytime programming anymore. I think they were slowly phasing it out.
Yeah, it feels like they changed their programming philosophy there.
They certainly did when it came to pro wrestling around the same time in the late 90s.
What happened there?
Well, by the year 2000, they were like, oh, there was Thunder in Saturday Night of WCW on TBS, and both slowly got canceled because it was just not what they were into anymore. They wanted reruns of popular shows, not original pro wrestling. But that's all changing. TBS is taking back pro wrestling at the start of next year.
They are?
Yes, yeah. There's, my beloved AEW is on TNT right now, and starting in January, they're going to be on TBS. They even have a TBS belt with the TBS logo on it.
They are the superstation.
They are.
So, yeah, Space Ghost ends in 99. What's next for the Space Ghost crew? Well, Moltar hosts Toonami for its first 3 years, right?
Yeah, I wish, I know everybody loves the Steve Bloombot.
Yeah.
He's fun. He was who you grew up with, but that's why I first went to Toonami. That I was
Me too.
Moltar's hosting Toonami.
Coming up next is Dragon Ball Z.
I like this. I like that Goku guy.
Yeah,
He's fun.
I remember. Yeah, it was the Moltar show for me. And then, as a side note, Cartoon Planet came back for a few years. Between 2012 and 2014, there was a brief revival just with Andy and Clay Croker, and the premise was Brak and Zorak were roommates.
Oh, that's fun.
And I watched some clips, and it's just like the old Cartoon Planet.
Man, I need to check this out. I didn't know it had a revival.
So yeah, Space Ghost ends in 99, but then comes the Brak Show, but not the Brak Show you're thinking of.
Right.
So there is Brak presents the Brak Show starring Brak, which was an hour-long special in the style of 70s variety shows that was split up to air as 2 half-hours in February of 2000. And it does feel like a pilot for a potential series or series of specials, but I guess the reaction wasn't very strong, though it did spawn a soundtrack album of the same name.
Yeah, I'd never, you would think that how I watched everything on TV all the time, I would have seen this when it was new, but I somehow missed this pilot airing.
Me too.
And only saw it as assorted clips over time. Like, for example, the Freddie Prinze Jr. scene.
Yeah.
That got replayed on Cartoon Network a lot. It's
as like a music video? Yeah.
Yeah, and just filler to take up time. But I actually, speaking of pro wrestling, the Diamond Dallas Page scene of that, I never saw until like a few years ago where somebody shared it on the internet.
Well, I watched most of both parts. They're both on YouTube, uploaded, anonymously. And it's really funny, and it feels like a higher budget production, because there's live action people, but also they draw a lot more new art for Brak and Zorak.
Yeah.
There's like new poses. If Brak needs to sit in a chair, they'll draw him in the chair.
I do wonder if the reason it didn't go past that pilot is they're like, well, there's a cheaper way to do this.
Yeah.
And the Brak Show is certainly a cheaper way of doing that idea.
Brak only needs to stand in every scene. There's nothing else he needs to do.
But watching the Brak Show starring Brak, it also follows the rules of the later show where it's just like, well, everybody still loves Brak and Zorak together. Got to have Zorak too. Don't need Space Ghost.
No.
The kid's just not into Space Ghost.
No, but they'll find a place for George Lowe in the future. So, yes, February of 2000, that airs. Then December of 2000, the pilot of the Brak Show finally airs late at night. We said it before, but everything sort of secretly debuted in December of 2000, like Aqua Teen, C-Lab, and this. I don't know why. Maybe it was a contractual thing, but they all aired randomly at like 2 in the morning before actually kicking off the block in September of 2001.
I could see that secret pilot block just being, some executive saying, let's not even announce it. Let's just see then if this gets any better views than, or, higher ratings than usual. Let's just do a quick little test on it.
So yes, that is where the Brak Show started. Before we talk about that, let's talk about Andy Merrill.
Oh, boy.
The voice of Brak and the brains of Brak. Now, a lot of this comes from a great interview he did with the Adult Swim podcast. It's now defunct, which is too bad because they're interviewing a lot of people, and the interviews are really in-depth because the guy who's hosting it, sorry I forget his name, he was one of those old-timers who started on Space Ghost in the late 90s. So, everybody knows him, and they're willing to tell a lot of stories, dish a lot of dirt, too.
I got to dig up these podcasts.
Yeah.
And because, these guys, I think, can dish dirt. It's like how on all these guys who used to work at Sega just say whatever they want because Sega didn't keep them around. They just laid everybody off, and so the dirt comes out there.
Yeah, a lot of stories of how cheap the network was, like Dana Snyder saying I was paid $200 an episode in the first couple of years.
And multiple stories of I was very sick but had to record because I needed the money. Depressing stories.
It seems like they mistreat people.
Yeah.
So Andy Merrill, born in 1966 in Newark, Ohio. That's in central Ohio, by the way. He moved to Atlanta in 1991 to work for CNN doing behind-the-scenes video production because he studied broadcasting in college.
He's a fellow Buckeye State guy just like you, Bob.
Yes, but Ohio's such a big state.
Yes,
I'm from the more metropolitan part of Ohio. Youngstown, city on the grow.
I have that same feeling of I was in Jacksonville, so I don't know anybody from Miami. You may as well be from South Carolina.
I have to drive 5 hours to go to Andy Merrill's hometown from my place. Apparently, CNN was paying him so little, he was being paid $15,000 a year in 1991. He was also working as a server at Bennigan's to make ends meet.
That's sad.
Yeah.
But, man, people get paid $15,000 now for jobs, which is sad. But
he was basically making a games journalist salary in 1991.
working for a big news organization, man.
So he was at CNN, and he heard that Turner just bought the Hanna-Barbera library, and Cartoon Network was hiring entry-level programmers. So he applied and was interviewed for the job by none other than Mike Lazo.
Well, there you go, man. That's when the friendship began.
Yes. So in that interview, Merrill has one quote about meeting Mike back then. His quote is, "He was nice then."
Oh,
so
ooh.
Yeah.
Well.
Maybe Mike's become a big shot. It seems like he has.
I from what I've heard in interviews, it sounded like by the time Adult Swim was getting going, Mike wasn't so nice.
Yeah. So I guess part of the application process was you would take a quiz that would quiz you on how well you knew old cartoons, and he grew up obsessed with cartoons, so he aced it.
Man, that's all you needed to get a job then? I wanted that. I could have that job right now.
And apparently before the Time Warner merger, when CNN and Cartoon Network were kind of small, you were never more than 4 places below Ted Turner on the food chain.
Wow.
So it was almost like a family operation, but they still underpaid you. But he got paid a lot more when he got the job at Cartoon Network compared to his CNN job.
Well, that's a fun story. And also, if I had just been 5 years younger, my first job could have been at CNN or 5 years older. My first job could have been at CNN in Atlanta.
I'm jealous of this early Cartoon Network crew, but they're probably horribly, I know they were horribly underpaid.
Oh, sure.
And not getting residuals for all of the things that they built.
Yeah, that's true. You make all of these things and you don't own them. You're basically a TV producer, but not paid like one. Yeah, you know what? Actually, I'm glad I didn't have that life.
So Andy Merrill, he works on the first season of Space Ghost Coast to Coast, and it should be noted that at this point he was very religious and beginning to feel a bit uneasy about some of the edgy humor, mostly because he didn't want to disappoint his parents.
I see. Man, that's funny because obviously what gets on Adult Swim later is makes original Space Ghost look G-rated.
Yeah. And I don't think it sounded like he's not religious anymore, but he still likes wholesome humor, and he loves Steve Allen and wholesome type stuff and old vaudeville stuff, and that really is shown in the Brak Show. It's just really goofy and silly and usually not mean-spirited.
Yeah, which makes it even funnier when he's surrounded by mean people who say swears, and he just goes well, how do you say that?
He's very indefatigable.
Yeah.
Be careful how you say that word, by the way.
I guess I should have figured he was raised rather religious with a lot of his just style of being. Yeah.
And for the most part, Andy was the guy that they sent in wearing the Space Ghost costume to interview celebrities. The guy you didn't see. They'd be talking to Andy. Then he didn't want to do it anymore. No, he left the show for Cartoon Planet. We'll get to that soon. Then they hired an actor to do it. Then they realized we can just put an earpiece in the celebrity's ear and have like George Lowe talk to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Like phone call them or whatever.
There was one episode of Space Ghost where it was an actor in that Space Ghost suit just shows up and one of the guests just says like, wait, you're not Space Ghost, you're just some guy in a suit. And they just write a whole episode around that of like, oh, a guy in a suit showed up pretending to be Space Ghost. But yeah.
And I think on Cartoon Planet there was a lot of live action Space Ghost footage, and I think that was Andy.
Oh yeah,
in
all
the
his
outfit.
dancing and that definitely was Andy. I mean, as a giant nerd watching the show, when he played the guy who the live action man in the Space Ghost episode with Deep Space Nine, that was, I believe, his actual bodily owned. At the end, when you're like, and I want you guys to write an episode that has an ending and doesn't just cut away, then it comes back and it's like, cop out.
I think he's in the thumbnail for HBO Max for that episode.
Yeah, I mean, he should be.
Yeah.
He should. Yeah.
So TBS orders Cartoon Planet in 95. Merrill leaves Space Ghost to work on this new series with future Brak Show creator Pete Smith. More on him later.
Okay.
So according to Andy, they create around 500 to 600 segments for Cartoon Planet throughout the entire run over like 3 years. And then Pete and Andy are summoned back to Space Ghost to help create a very new big order for the network.
Mm-hmm. They got a lot of knifing around to do on Space Ghost. That to know now, I mean, after rewatching episodes of this and then going back to some old Cartoon Planet, I never considered Brak Show as a continuation of Cartoon Planet, but it absolutely is.
It's for the kids who grew up and are now over 14 and can watch Adult Swim.
Yes, yeah, but they're a little scared of the dirty food creatures that air before Brak.
They'll turn it off at 11:15.
Yeah.
It should be noted at this point, Andy was still working as a programmer up until he went on back to Space Ghost. So he was still doing a full-time job on top of Cartoon Planet.
Now that's once Cartoon Planet is a real show on the channel, he's not a programmer anymore. He's a star of he's a writer star of a show. That's insane to me that they do that.
And it sounded like this huge order of Space Ghost was just hell to work on. Everyone was totally burned out by the end. Andy described it as just being screamed at every day. He did not enjoy doing this, although he got to finally be very creative on the show, write some of his own episodes. Like he said Boat Show is one of his favorites. And that's like wall-to-wall songs.
Yes, yeah, with Steve Allen. Steve Allen's gonna talk to me.
Yes, and that was his dream to get Steve Allen on the show, and it happened.
And, obviously the guy sucks as a person, but their songs with Andy Dick were also funny. Andy, don't be a space.
We'll do more Space Ghosts in the future.
Yes.
So more fun hires. So Jim Fortier, the third creator of The Brak Show, is a fresh hire to work on Season 4 of Space Ghost, The Big Order. And also, future Aqua Teen co-creator Dave Willis was hired first as an assistant on Cartoon Planet, so that's where he got into the organization.
Oh, wowee. I didn't know that was his in. I figured he was just another of those in. I mean, I think you must have gone over this in the Aqua Teen history, but I just figured he was part of that original Space Ghost set, but he snuck in the back door of Cartoon Planet.
He was a Cartoon Planet assistant. So after this huge order, this 24-episode order, maybe 26, Andy is feeling really burned out. He works on the new Space Ghost website for a bit, and then he leaves the network after getting married to somebody who works at the company. They go to New York, and he said he made a lot of money off what he calls a very bad script. And then later in the interview, he talks about he was developing a pilot for VH1 about Amish people.
What?
And this could be the very bad script he was talking about. But apparently, if it was made, it was never shown.
Well, at least he got a bunch of money for it. He's another of those guys, like at the very end of when companies spent a lot of money on one type of script, if you could give it to him.
He remarked, like, it was pretty fun to think I could just make a lot of money by failing in New York.
Man, that's how many people in Hollywood have gotten rich over not even making a thing. It boggles the mind.
So, yes, at this point, Merrill is in New York, trying to sell things, trying to make things happen for himself. Brak is still very popular, thanks to his inclusion in several of the new Space Ghost episodes. And that's when Pete Smith comes up with the idea for the Brak Show, starring Brak, the 70s variety show. So Merrill's game to be part of that. He records all of his parts in New York. He's still living there. And, I think that's where he records with Freddie Prinze Jr. He gets a lot of New York celebrities on the show because he's there.
That totally makes sense, yeah. And that, that they got Diamond Dallas Page. It makes me wish, as in the 90s, they had multiple guests who were pro wrestlers because Turner owned a wrestling company. And then, in 2001, they sold off the wrestling company 6 months before Adult Swim launched. If they had still owned a wrestling company when Adult Swim launched, imagine how many pro wrestlers would have been on there.
So Diamond Dallas Page was cross-promotion?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. He was one of their top dudes. I bet in the year 2000 was when one of the worst movies of the year came out, Ready to Rumble, which Diamond Dallas Page was a star of.
Right.
And so he probably was even just promoting that,
So after the Brak Show starring Brak does not become the hit they want it to be, Pete Smith and another writer named Jim Fortier start developing the Brak Show we know and love. And then Andy and his wife move back to Atlanta. They get their jobs back.
Oh, that's nice.
They crawl in through the supplicant door, get their jobs back, and then Andy joins the Brak Show's development about 1/3 of the way through the development process.
I mean, you can't develop it without Brak. I guess you could make a show where you just write lines for Brak and he is only a voice actor, but that's not what Brak is. You can't write what Brak is.
Yeah.
It just comes out of Andy.
It's part of his brain.
Yeah.
So the end of Andy's story is he stays at the Cartoon Network until 2015. He's a 23-year tenure there outside of his brief, hiatus in New York.
So after the Brak Show, he's just like an executive walking around and it's Brak's voice coming
Basically,
out of his. That's crazy.
I think he's still a programmer. He would do work puppets on some I think they had the Friday show or whatever on Cartoon Network where he'd play some puppets.
I know on Adventure Time he did a recurring voice as well, and you'd hear him every now and then, and I knew it was from. I'm certain with Adventure Time and probably with other shows he appeared on, it was Brak fans who grew up with Brak of let's have Brak just have this voice.
Yeah, that he said that's how he gets a lot of his voice acting through Brak fans. So why he left is because in the mid-2010s, Turner announced their Turner 2020 initiative, which meant a lot of layoffs. And his wife was co-executive producer of programming or whatever, really high up on the food chain.
God damn.
And shockingly, they laid off the big executives first.
Wow, that actually is not what I would have expected there. Yeah.
So that's what causes Andy to leave with his wife to go to LA. And since then, he's done voice acting for Gravity Falls, Harvey Beaks, Adventure Time. But it sounds like he's eager to do much more. And I don't know what he's doing, but in a recent clip, he's on Twitter. He on YouTube for a while, he was doing things with the Brak puppet. On Twitter, I saw recently he was just recording some funny videos just for Twitter, doing voices and stuff. But he was wearing a construction jacket or a jacket you wear when you're on the job site. I'm there's nothing wrong with having a regular job. Andy Merrill should never be forced to work a regular job.
Yeah,
he was a fundamental part of building the Cartoon Network. I hope he's not loading a truck or something. He's also 55 years old.
Yeah, he shouldn't be doing manual labor at that age anyway. But especially if you pretty much invented the Brak everybody loved, that's very depressing to me. I hope not. I hope Andy Merrill is very successful or saved up a bunch of money, especially a wife executive. I hope he saves some money.
I don't know what his life is like now. I hope he gets more work. But the guy from the Cosby Show, he was discovered working at Trader Joe's. He was like, no, I like it here. I get benefits and it's fine. So maybe he found a life outside of entertainment and he's happy. I want to see him do more, and it sounds like he's eager to do more.
Yeah. But that's funny that they're like, oh, it's our plan for 2020. A big part is that all of you won't be here then.
You never want to be at an all hands meeting.
No.
Did anything good ever come out of an all hands meeting?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think even if they didn't all lay you off right at the all hands meeting, that was their way of taking accounting of everybody, and the plan is coming.
Yes. Don't forget who your masters are. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the Brak Show. So there's not a lot of history to the Brak Show because, as I said, it is like the Space Ghost and Cartoon Planet machinery still operating after that Brak variety show failed to be a hit. Mm-hmm. So the Brak Show ran for 3 seasons and 28 episodes from September 2nd, 2001 to December 31st, 2003. And it seemed as if Brak was poised to be the star of the Adult Swim block.
Oh, yeah.
That's why his show aired so early on the block. He was a known character, very, very popular in the 90s, a breakout star. My own take is Brak is a pre-9/11 character, and maybe during the twee movement of the mid-aughts, he would have been more popular, but immediately after 9/11, we wanted things to be mean.
Yeah,
we were in an ugly place. We wanted a disgusting milkshake cup to yell at us.
In the W administration, he's just there in the wrong place at the wrong time, which, I feel like when the promotions were going on for it, Brak was at the forefront. They're like, and yeah, the Brak Show and New Space Ghost and some other things you never heard of. And then very quickly, I think, at least within my pal group, nobody talked about the Brak Show.
Yeah.
Like, it was not what people cared about.
Not as many swears,
Yeah.
not as many disgusting situations and jokes, not as many murders happen
Not
on
as
screen.
many- Yeah, and also, like, even though there's swears and stuff on it, and there's a hint of dirtiness, Brak is such just a pure, innocent, even Meatwad, who is a similar enough character, he does crazier stuff.
Yeah,
And has more bite
and
to
he's
it.
disgusting.
Yes.
I don't think Brak smells.
No.
Yeah, not a lot of production history behind this. From what I read and listened to with Andy Merrill, he thought it was a great experience because on Space Ghost they would often go off and write their own episodes. With the Brak Show, it was always like 3 people in a room: Andy, Jim, and Pete, all writing together. And because he did the voice of the character, it was easy to pitch lines.
Oh
like that.
yeah. And plus he and Croker were just such bros at that time, and with Lowe, like, it's so easy for them all just to act off of each other. Yeah.
And I don't think there was any drama with the cancellation because Cartoon Network always waited so long to renew shows. It felt like when a season was over, it was functionally canceled unless they said otherwise.
Felt like there were a lot of season finales that felt like just in case we are canceled, we're ending things here kind of deal.
And I was watching promos for the Brak Show on YouTube, and one of them is him singing "Brak is back," like Back in Black, AC/DC.
Brak is back.
But he's like, I'm not canceled anymore. So
Yes.
it feels like maybe after a season or two, they're like, no more Brak, but then he decided to give us more Brak.
Yeah, it sounded like in 03, not only did he get canceled, but they're also like, and you're not taking up space between 10 and midnight either.
I mean, when he got canceled was when the same year where Family Guy and Futurama were hitting Adult Swim.
That is this big change. The whole movie guys talk about it too, that you felt like you were a big fish, and then when these shows show up that actually get mega ratings, you realize you are nothing.
But I don't think there are any hard feelings because they even had fun with the cancellation. So they aired the final episode on New Year's Eve of 2003. There was all this special interstitial material throughout the night because the premise was it's a big party at Brak's house. The final thing will be the last episode.
Right.
In the last episode, you find out that's the last one. I don't think it was promoted like that. The last episode says, I can't believe we're canceled.
Yeah, we weren't canceled. Yeah, I watched, I wasn't a regular viewer of Brak at that time, but I'd watch it if it was on. And then I was definitely, I was a loser. I was at home on New Year's Eve.
The first New Year's Eve, I'm 21. Of course I'm watching cartoons all night.
So I'm watching that, and when I remember it so well because there's all the interstitials, and then that episode ends with they're all penguins. Like they're all transformed into penguins, and they have a fun callback with Mom, and then Brak just says, "I wish we weren't canceled," and then just ends, and then it goes back to the party interstitials, and Brak is just like, "Well, we're canceled. Oh no!"
Thankfully, someone uploaded all of these interstitial things to YouTube. There's about an episode's worth of all your Adult Swim friends hanging out together. At least the early aughts ones.
This really counts as a Brak episode and should have been on the Brak DVDs,
I think so.
Yeah.
But thankfully it's on YouTube. So here is the first part of Brak getting canceled.
Brak, are you watching this Adult Swim bullcrap?
No, we're watching Boxcar Bert.
Well, they just canned our show.
Really? How's Mom taking it?
She picked up our last paycheck and left.
Mom's gone? Who's gonna clean up all this, Dad?
I'm not your father. You can stop calling me Dad. My name is Javier. And I guess I might as well go back to my normal size.
He grows.
You guys hear about this horse? What am I gonna do now?
My coast-to-coast Zorak was recently squished by a robot. I need a sassy boy mantis to take his place. Think you could fill the bill?
Screw you.
Change screw to and you're hired.
You.
You're hired.
Space Ghost, since you're hiring,
Can you do something about that accent?
can you do something about yours?
He can't, but I can. Hi, I'm George Lowe. I voice both of these fellas. Please buy my new book, Boned by the Master.
Well, that's a tough break about your Brak Show being canceled there, George. And it's gonna put a dent in the old wallet, eh? Somebody ain't going to Sizzler tonight.
We're still doing Space Ghost, right? Right, Keith?
And Aqua Teen Beyond for another 13 years or whatever.
Oh, he's talking to Keith Crawford, I would assume there.
Yes.
That's,
And I guess there would be Space Ghost went to Game Tap.
Right.
And I don't think those are on
Right.
HBO Max because there's a lot of Space Ghost episodes that are Game Tap exclusives. Now, Game Tap, in case you don't know,
You would remember that.
mid-aughts, it was the Netflix but for video games, and it was PC only, and there was original programming like Syphil and Ollie has exclusive episodes, and also Space Ghost has exclusive Game Tap episodes.
I mean, hey, that's exactly what I would have done if I was running Game Tab. Like, what is affordable to get original content here from people I like? Well, Space Ghost and Syphil and Ollie.
And it was a lot of Turner stuff. It was a Turner initiative, and I know games journalists moved to Atlanta briefly to work on this.
Yeah.
And I believe Jeremy Parrish, my Retronauts co-host, he wrote some instruction manuals for Game Tap as a freelancer.
Right, because Game Tap, it's basically what Game Pass or PS Now is.
Yeah.
Then it was PC only, and it was a small list of games. And I think like some of their top stuff they offered like would be a Tomb Raider game that was 2 years old. They're like, here, 2-year-old Tomb Raider.
Like emulated Street Fighter and stuff. And there were tons of ads, too.
Oh, yeah, which it's like, I think I'd rather just steal in that case. So I love hearing that scene of just everybody just mask off and they're just razzing each other like, well, George, you lost a bunch of work there.
That's why Brak is fun because, Brak gets sad, he gets excited, but he never gets too angry. Like, the biggest reaction he has is, oh, man, when his show gets canceled.
Oh, man. Same with like, the one regular woman in the entirety of Adult Swim also is Mom. And to hear that the second her show's over, she's like, I'm leaving. I'm out of here. The only female, like, there's no female regular on Aqua Teen. On C-Lab, there's Debbie, who they turned into like a drunk sex freak by 3 episodes in. And she, of course, she's a giant stereotype of the 60s mom. Like,
apron, dishwashing gloves, everything, you name it.
Yeah.
So I have a second clip of this cancellation.
Oh, boy.
Excuse some brief tracking noise interference. It goes away very quickly, but this is George Lowe explaining his lot in life after the cancellation of the Brak Show.
Hello, everybody. They canceled the Brak Show. And since it's not April 1st, I guess it's not a joke. I'm pretty depressed about it, folks.
My agent at William Morris just laughs at me when I tell him what I do for a living. Hey, George, we know it's your new show, but sorry, we have to cancel it.
I don't got nothing else to say about it.
The ass munch I'm sitting across from has a sister with Disney doing Lilo and Stitch and Lion King 8 and everything. And you think these motherfuckers would throw me a bone? I'd like to help you, but I can't. Well, they only hire... it's not your fault. I know what you're up against. Just cast me in something else so I can pay my bills. I do other voices, I don't just do those two.
Again, sorry for the poor quality of that clip, but that was the final thing that aired that night.
That's so Adult Swim, or William Street especially, that's what they leave you with. It's just these characters just falling apart and going like, no, seriously, I got to pay my bills. Nobody, my career sucks.
I think one of the things that was censored is George saying they only hire blank. I think it was union. Because he was trying to get a Disney job. He's like, no, they only hire union workers.
I bet you, I was plugging in a swear there, but I bet, I think unionized labor was the biggest swear and curse.
There's no worse swear at that network than union labor, which is why our favorite creators are Doc Hammer and Jackson Public.
Yep,
the non-union names of our, Christopher McCulloch and I guess Doc Hammer's his real name.
I guess he just that's his nom de plume, whatever.
He was never working on union stuff though. So.
Yeah. I mean, well, he seems like Doc Hammer just seems like a real odd bird in general.
Yeah.
But yeah, poor George Lowe. Like again, he's like an actor in his 40s, 50s, and just all he does is like I'm 5 voices on William Street shows. It probably makes him at most like $2,000 a month.
And I think he was just the radio guy they brought in because obviously they couldn't get the old Space Ghost voice back who lived in LA, Gary Owens, and would be a lot of money.
Yeah, no, and union. He's like probably a long time in the SGA. Yeah,
I think when Space Ghost Coast to Coast was first airing and there were commercials for it, my uncle objected because Gary Owens was not doing the voice. He's like, that's not Space Ghost.
I mean, I love Gary Owens, but yeah, I feel like it must have happened at least once or twice in my life, just driving around in a car with your mom and hearing on the radio a commercial for anything, and it's just George Lowe's voice saying it. Yeah,
selling you beef or cars,
mattresses.
So let's talk about the other creators of the Brak Show. This history is still going on. I couldn't believe how long this history is. Jim Fortier and Pete Smith. So Jim Fortier, he created Squidbillies with Dave Willis, which is now coming to an end after 16 years on Adult Swim. And because the main character, the voice of him got canceled,
right?
Tracy Morgan is the voice of Early in the show, the main squid.
Hey, I mean, big of them to get Tracy Morgan as a star. I guess the voice actor for Early actually is a very early type guy in reality.
I mean, you don't have a voice like that most of the time without having some beliefs.
Sure, yeah. Yep.
Not to stereotype too much.
Hey, look, I grew up in that area. I think it's fair. I mean, Stone Mountain, Georgia is famous as like a stronghold of the Klan for a very long time. So.
And Squidbillies is just people in Atlanta making a show about how much they hate everyone in the States.
That's true.
So yeah, the pilot for Squidbillies was in the works for a long time. It was kind of an inside joke on Adult Swim bumpers, like, oh, we're still working on Squidbillies, everybody. Right. And Fortier wanted Andy Merrill to work on Squidbillies, but he said in this interview, I just didn't get Squidbillies. I didn't want to work on it. And that's because Andy Merrill is too kind-hearted. This awful, evil show that I love, full of vile characters who are always dying at the end. There's they seemingly always get murdered.
Yes, their skin ripped off like it's the 10 times meaner than Aqua Teen, a mean-ass show.
But boy, did I love it for a long time, and I know there's like 100 episodes I haven't seen.
It's so funny, too, that like Dave Willis has this like... he seems like a nice enough dude in like interviews and stuff, but there's this dark streak in so much of his material that is so different from Andy Merrill.
And he was hired to work on Cartoon Planet.
Yes, the nice show for nice people.
So as I said earlier, Jim Fortier got his start on the big production run of Space Ghost episodes, the 26 episode run. It seems like from what Andy was saying, you could really work your way up in the organization. Like the friggin' Mike Lazo started in the mailroom at TBS. He's one of those rags to riches stories. They made sure that could never happen again.
Yeah,
corporations.
That's why Mike Lazo definitely sounds like he sucks, but it's like if every executive's going to suck, I'd maybe it'd be better if they were rural assholes who came up through the mailroom instead of just everybody who is in the same class at Harvard or Yale.
Like your executive buddy will come in and run the company for a few months or whatever.
It's like, oh, who runs this company? Well, they shared a keg at Dartmouth, and it all grew from there.
So, after being a writer-producer on Space Ghost and then the Brak Variety Show and the Brak Show, he would mainly be a Squidbillies guy. He is the co-creator and, a writer and director on it. He was also a creative consultant on another very cruel show, Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell.
Oh,
another one I love. Yep. Another show and I've seen all of them.
I also think about how Dave Willis, as a longtime employee of Cartoon Network and Adult Swim, that he kept doing these things about like horrible workplaces and cruel businesses and owners. Like, I mean, the Dan whatever, the boss in Squidbillies, he's cruel enough, and then like the literal like Satan is your boss in Your Pretty, and it's but someday we should do that, even though it's live action, because I just love Henry Zabrowski's character is he's the sweet boy who's like just a sweet idiot loser who's forced to be a demon.
It's a great show, and I think maybe for one of our live action shows we'll cover it in the future. I love it.
Yeah, maybe April, who knows.
And so we have Pete Smith next. So Pete Smith, hired as a writer for Cartoon Planet, will go on to write and produce on the big order of Space Ghost episodes. So after the Brak Show, only a few minor creative credits, but he was still at the company until 2017, mainly working in the on-air promo department, kind of defining the look and feel of Adult Swim promos, which were our MTV promos of our generation.
Oh yeah, and there is a consistency maintained across them, which I see now. It's thanks to that dude. Yeah.
And he retired in 2017 in September, and on that day, Cartoon Network held a Pete Smith Day on Adult Swim, and it was full of programming that was related to him.
Oh, that's
They paid tribute to him, this guy that nobody knew about. I mean, people barely know Andy Merrill, but they don't know Pete Smith.
Yeah.
But they had Pete Smith Day on Adult Swim, and it was full of Pete Smith programming. So
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I didn't know. I want to just check out that spate of programming and see what it was.
And I went to the Adult Swim Twitter to look up Pete Smith, and on that day, they posted a picture. It was like the entire staff. They were all wearing shirts with Pete Smith's picture of on it, on their shirts, like a younger picture of him, and he's in the front wearing a football jersey, and they're in front of the nasty-ass old TBS building.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh,
Yeah.
man, I got to look at that. That nasty-ass TBS building, I think, is also on that Pro Wrestling TBS belt now. Like, I think it's still a joke.
It looks
for the
like
company.
an abandoned elementary school or something. It's really ugly. And of course, we're having a lot of fun here. What's not fun is that C. Martin Croker is no longer with us.
Yeah.
Speaking of guys who defined the network, the look of the shows, who created so much original animation of these characters when they couldn't just reuse existing video footage. He was so important, very mistreated by the company, and passed away in 2016 at only 54.
From reading that, posthumous piece, I believe it was Cartoon Brew that hosted it, just about his last days. He did sound like a guy who, didn't take as good care of himself as he could have. But, if he had actually a lot more money and health insurance from the company that made millions and millions off of all of his work, I think he probably would have taken a little better care of himself.
Yeah. At some point, we have to say, why was he not being taken care of by this company?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, personal responsibility, blah, blah, blah. But when you get fucked over like that so much by a company, hearing the description in there of like that Adult Swim knew when he was desperate and seemingly used that to get like cheaper work out of him, is like, well, why don't you draw 5 new drawings for this thing? We can only pay you half though.
But if you see a new character on like Aqua Teen or Space Ghost or the Brak Show, it was usually him or one of his designs.
When he is a full cast member on all these shows, like I would hope at least he got 2 paychecks for that as cast member and as animator. And, I guess I had a soft spot for him too, not just because I grew up with him, but when I saw stuff about like all the junk he owned, I was like, oh, that's the shit I would have bought, like if I were him. Like maybe not as many Elvira posters, but
he was of the Elvira generation.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, we miss him dearly, and it really, really sucks that he left so early. But yeah, just such a vital part of this whole like evolution of programming from the very early days of Cartoon Network.
Oh, sure.
And of course, we also have George Lowe because there's no room for Space Ghost on the show. I honestly think they were just sick of Space Ghost.
I think so.
It sounds like they're like, well, this character isn't as funny as we want him to be, and we still need a character for George Lowe to play. So in a hilarious turn, George Lowe basically plays Ricky Ricardo, a very, very small man who is somehow kind of Brak's dad.
And who is he is pure wacky machine. He can say anything you want to put in his mouth. It works. Like any weird saying, any nonsense, or any like odd sexual comments he can make. Like it all works coming out of a ridiculous person like Dad.
And I love how few animations he has. One is just like him raising his finger, and one is him like shaking his fist. He's usually buried behind a newspaper too.
Up and down, and then one of those helpful newspapers to get in his way. I rewatched a handful for this on top of the one we're doing, and there was one I forgot that was a staring contest, which absolutely was an excuse to animate as little as possible for an episode,
and kind of showing off just how little they could get out of these characters, where it's just the dots moving around on the floor. Like, it's I mean, they had very, very limited budget, but yeah, George Lowe playing this crazy I Love Lucy style character, and then the mom, at least in this version of the show, is played by Martha Crenshaw, who does not have a lot of credits after this outside of being on Frisky Dingo. Like Lowe, I think she was a radio announcer, and they just found someone with the right voice.
Yeah, I think she's just like another Atlanta area person with a good voice to play. She is my preferred mom. I like her more as a mom, maybe because I like American accent moms.
British accent mom is feistier, I think.
Yeah, no, she's feistier and gets more done, but I kind of prefer the American mom. And yeah, she's another just Atlanta person.
Anything else we need to cover? I mean, this is the extensive history of Brak as a character and his gradual will rise to fame and then, fall from grace.
Oh, one other. Thundercleese is Carrie Means.
Right, right.
I'm glad from what I've seen with Carrie Means in interviews and stuff, I think he likes Thundercleese more than Frylock. Like when I hear him on commentaries, he's like, "I'm Thundercleese," and he just loves acting out this wacky, very like radio drama of a superhero.
I guess it's better
character.
than playing a depressed French fry container.
That's pretty much just your voice. Or also just has to go like, "No shake, we're not doing that. No shake, we're not." Thundercleese, meanwhile, gets to say wacky shit all the time too. Who in Function a lot of the time I think works like Space Ghost because he gets mad at Zorak and shoots him.
And we mentioned they were sick of Space Ghost. They found a place for George Lowe. Space Ghost is only in a few episodes. You figure they would work him in more, but it turns out they don't really need him for this setting.
I like the general weirdness. The world of it is sort of sci-fi when they want it to be, but other times it is like a full-on 50s throwback show. But yeah, Carrie Means, he's, we talk about Croker. He's also had some tough times. He's still with us now. He had a GoFundMe earlier this year that I tried to help spread around as many did, and I keep an eye out for because he's another guy who deserves to be very rich and isn't.
Yeah,
and
after 15 years being Frylock.
Yeah, I
beloved character Frylock,
and I hope maybe he'll get a bigger paycheck for that Aqua Teen movie they're working on for next year.
Oh, you're right. I totally forgot they're making another one.
Yep, yeah, we're getting an Aqua Teen movie, Venture Bros movie, no Brak movie, not getting that. But
maybe one day Brak will come back. But yes, that is it for our history of the Brak Show. We're going to take a short break and come back to talk all about the episode President Dad.
Hi, Dad. Can my friend stay for dinner?
Brak, you cannot be bringing home every supermodel you see on TV.
But he's so hungry.
Discussion over. See, Brak, it wasn't so hard to find a nice friend to join us at the table. Snacks for everyone!
Look under the cap of any Nestea Cool bottle for a 1 in 6 chance to get cash discounts or free Nestea Cool. Now that's cool.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the break for our What a Cartoon episode all about the Brak Show. I am one of your hosts for this one, Bob Mackey, face down in a pizza pie, eating my way to freedom. And who is here with me today?
What day is this? Would you please tell me? Hey, it's Henry Gilbert. Welcome.
And yes, we are here to tell you all about the Talking Simpsons Network, of which the show is a part. So if you want to support us and get all these episodes 1 week ahead of time and ad-free, please go to patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. Sign up there at the $5 level. You'll get just that, but also access to everything behind that $5 paywall. That includes everything we made behind that paywall for the past nearly 5 years of this Patreon, and that includes over 100 bonus miniseries podcasts. The most recent miniseries we're doing right now is called Blabbing About Batman, the animated series. We're going over our 10 favorite episodes of Batman, the animated series, using the patented Talking Simpsons / What a Cartoon style with research and clips and everything you love, and it's only behind the $5 paywall at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons, and there's a $10 level as well. Sign up for that, you get all the $5 stuff, plus also access to one mega-long podcast once a month, only for patrons of that level or higher. And what is that, Henry?
Bob is talking about the What a Cartoon Movie podcast. In addition to all the $5 things Bob just helpfully listed for you, you also get it $10 a month, the What a Cartoon Movie. You get to hear a free preview of that in this free feed each month, but the entire thing, often over 4 hours long, is yours if you are a $10 and up subscriber at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. We've been doing What a Cartoon Movie for over 3 years now, covering so many cartoons. This month, if you sign up, you can get in the holiday spirit by watching the classic 1964 Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer Animagic Rankin Bass classic. And before that, last month, we covered Batman Beyond Return of the Joker, a really great Batman movie that also has a lot of interesting behind-the-scenes stuff that you will only know if you listen to our What a Cartoon Movie podcast. The entire back catalog is over 200 hours now. If you sign up at that $10 level, it's all yours with a new one each month. Please check out all of those things when you go to patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
And if you've never signed up for Patreon before, it is so easy to do that. And once you sign up, you're given a code. You have access to that code at all times. You just drop that code into whatever you use to listen to podcasts, and that way you can download our bonus podcast alongside all of your free podcasts as part of your podcasting lifestyle. And Patreon has an app for any smart device you might have. If you want to listen to our bonus episode that way, you can using the app. But either way you do it, it is so easy to access all of the bonus content waiting for you at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. Thanks for listening to this break, folks. We'll let you get to our exploration of why democracy just doesn't work with our look at the Brak Show episode, President Dad.
Beef log, what a treat. A hefty hunk of processed meat. Dipped in mustard, oh what joy. I'm a jolly beef log boy. Hot and spicy, mild or plain. I even eat the cellophane. I might share some with my dog, 'cause we both love beef log. Oh boy!
So we're back with President Dad, our discussion all about this episode. So up front, I want to say that this really feels like this 2001 show. It feels like the last time you could really play with the tropes of sitcoms. It feels like, again, like 50s to 70s, that era, where it's all absurdism for the most part, but a lot of the plots are so recycled, like, oh, we're going to steal the mascot from the opposing football team, or
feed somebody's pets.
Get a job, like school problems, bully problems, things like that. I mean, you don't really need to know, but I think it's really the last time in history you could play with these ideas, because after this, nobody is growing up with this content. Zoomers don't know Brady Bunch or, 8 is Enough or Leave It to Beaver, because Zorak is a very like an Eddie Haskell style figure too.
Oh yes, yeah, and this is them talking about the shows they grew up watching, but in the world of Jackass, like this kind of throwback doesn't really work anymore. And plus, even us, we're getting ready to no, I want to remember the 80s now. I don't want to hear about the 70s you remember. I'm old enough to want you to remember my things. That's why the throwbacks in Family Guy were so successful, because no, we say remember He-Man, remember Ghostbusters.
I remember Voltron.
Yeah.
And that's why for the first season at least, the titles of the show are all references to old sitcoms, like Different Braks, Give Me a Brak, The Braks of Life, Brak's My Mama, Father Knows Brak. They stopped that after the first season. I think they just ran out of puns.
I think they just got tired. It sounds like they got tired. Yeah, but the just straight from the opening, I love the just do like it's very relaxing.
The fun poses, Zorak with his flamethrower, and the voice of the names of the real voice actors on the screen.
That's really special, because nobody else gets that on their shows. I wish they had that in every Adult Swim show. It feels almost like, somebody pushed for it to finally get their names up front, and deservedly so. Also, when, Merrill is both a writer and star of the show, I'm glad he was able to get his credit and everybody else who's a lead in the show.
He gets the very important Andy Merrill as Brak.
Yeah. It's how it's got it. You either have Brak first or you end with and Brak.
I learned that that's actually like something people negotiate for, the and credits.
Oh, yes, yeah. After a while I noticed the with Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel L. Jackson in the Marvel movies, he gets to be Mr. With, That's what's really funny. If you watch Endgame, the credits on that, there's 8 different actors who in their specific movies they get to be the with guy, but it's they're all in one movie together, so it's and with, but it goes with Samuel L. Jackson, with Michael Douglas, with
how many entertainment lawyers do you think took to put that together? That deal together.
That's really the greatest special effect in the movie. There's the biggest amazing effect in Endgame isn't the giant fight where 5,000 people all run at each other. It's that there is one long shot of 40 incredibly famous rich actors, and they're all standing together.
And most of them are actually there and not CGI'd in.
They really are. I was sure seeing it in the theater, I was like, well, these people aren't really there. And then hearing the director say, no, for real, everybody was there. We got them all there.
Our standards have dropped so much where it's I'm so happy they weren't too busy to make this movie. They actually showed up.
Actors could be around together on the same day? Wow.
I learned that lesson from the first reboot of Arrested Development, where it's they're yelling at people off screen all the time. It's well, Jessica Walter wasn't available. And
Yeah, and
I also wanted to say up front that since this is a very short subject, I've I've clipped most of it because it's like a 10-minute long cartoon with the credits taken off. So yeah, you're gonna hear most of it clipped by me.
And William Street, though, yeah, the rest of their voice actors, they're like names that go by in like a third of a second at the end of an Aqua Teen or whatever. So seeing these names up front is really, really nice, especially as I get to know all of their names later. Yeah.
So yeah, after the opening, we have a brief scene outside of Brak's home. I like the use of a real-life photograph of the home from the outside. And yeah, Zorak is playing I Steal Your Mail with a Thundercleese, running back and forth, and Brak is not enjoying this game, wants to do something fun. See, Brak is so innocent. He doesn't want to steal mail or get shot by Thundercleese's laser blast that sends Zorak flying across the screen on fire.
That's it's a really funny dynamic they work into this show that wasn't really there before with Brak and Zorak. I think on Cartoon Planet, Zorak he's like, enough of this Brak guy. But in this show, Brak and Zorak have the relationship of a kid who's friends with his bully who thinks he's his friend. Yeah.
And the bully gets him into like schemes and also thinks he's too good to hang out with Brak.
Yeah. Which, I didn't love that. In looking back on my childhood, I'm like, I had Zoraks in my life, and I was the pure innocent Brak who got tricked by those Zoraks.
Well, fortunately for you, Henry, there's very little Zorak in this gym mat we're going to be looking at today. So yeah, after that brief bit of Thundercleese fun, we go inside, and Dad has a letter.
Mother, do they make high-heeled shoes for men? I am asking for a friend. Brak, what the heck is going on out there?
Oh, Zorak's playing a new game he made up called I Steal Your Mail and Keep It.
He didn't get our mail, did he?
No, I went out and got it early this morning, before Zorak made bail.
Good work. Take the rest of the day off.
Oh, honey, it looks like you got another letter from the Neighborhood Association.
Just throw it away.
Dear, you better read this one. It says final notice.
Oh, go ahead. Let's hear it. I don't know why I put up with this bullcrap. A man of my stature.
Dear neighbor, despite numerous warnings, you continue to violate neighborhood rules by retrieving your morning paper wearing only European-style briefs.
I sent them a letter about that.
If, as your letter explained, you must continue this practice for medical reasons, please bend at the knee rather than the waist. Some things are better left a mystery. This is your final notice regarding this matter. Sincerely, Galrog.
Who does this Galrog think he is?
Well, he's president of the Neighborhood Association, dear.
The Brak Show, it's still the early days of Adult Swim. It's not quite as profane, but it was always less profane than the other shows where just like crap, hell, damn, ass. Those were the swears. Very few things were bleeped out. I think now at Adult Swim, they just say the words. Is that correct?
Well, that's what was funny in that the New Year's party thing. One, that they had them say like shit a bunch of times, but they bleeped it, which is funny to hear. They even made pure innocent Brak say it.
But I couldn't hear Brak say that word.
But I believe the turn happened in the next year. That was New Year's 2003. When it became the new year of 2004, they did Boondocks. And the rule for Boondocks was we get to say shit, we get to say the N-word, we get to say all the dirty stuff South Park gets to say, and that pretty much just broke the barrier of like, well, if they say it, then now Aqua Teen can start saying it, and everybody says
Poor Brak could not coexist with the Boondocks.
That is why Brak had to go away. They saw what Boondocks was coming, like, oh, Brak and the Boondocks characters, they can't hang out in scenes anymore.
They can't be in the same promo.
No.
So yeah, we're hearing about Galrog, the Neighborhood Association president. Dad wants to know why no one has ever seen him, and all he does is sit in his cave firing off letters telling him what to do.
I like, too, with the character of Dad that you never see him wear anything other than his regular outfit. But to know that every morning he just wears, I would guess, Speedos or a thong and bend over and show his ass to everybody.
European-style briefs.
Yes, yeah, which he's like, oh, who's he to tell me what to do? I also just love that he doesn't even read that mail himself. She reads it to him. He is a very lazy man who doesn't even like standing out of his chair most of the time.
He considers her an employee. Like, take the rest of the day off. Then we get his line about being pushed around like a shopping cart full of rotten pumpkin meat. I'll just play it again. It's fun.
I'm tired of being pushed around like a stolen shopping cart full of rotten pumpkin meat.
And I was talking to Nina. So Nina surprised me, my wife Nina, who famously hates Goofy. And I thought she wouldn't like Brak, but then I found out she loves Brak. And I was like, well, isn't Brak a Goofy-style character? But then upon thinking about it, Brak doesn't make big messes for everyone. And that's what Goofy does. And we We all excuse Goofy, but Brak is just trying to make everything better all the time.
That's true. You know, bad things happen around Brak, but he's trying to make the good things happen. He means very well. He's a sweet little boy who means well, and he falls in with the wrong crowd. Sure, yeah.
And we were also sorry. Go ahead.
Also, I was going to say, you know, Nina is a big fan of Homestar Runner, which is certainly, I think, like a cousin to Brak. Like they are similar. They'd be good pals, I think.
And we were trading Brak songs back and forth, or at least talking about them, and we were thinking about the idea is, you know, it's a lot of LOL random humor of the time.
Sure.
But why do we accept this and not other things? And I think it's because it comes from a sincere place. I don't think they are monkey cheesing their way through these scripts. It feels like they are stumbling upon what they think is funny, not just like, what's the most random word I can say? Especially Andy Merrill. Like, these things just come out of his mouth, I think, is Brak.
Yeah, I do think, you know, sometimes he would, as Brak, just say, like, monkeys. Yeah. And then people go, like, monkeys themselves are not inherently funny, Brak. He's like, I guess you had to be there. But yeah, his songs, my favorite song of Brak's was What Day Is It? Like, just is, I'm confused, you see, is it Monday? No. Is it Tuesday? No. Just killing time with a song. I love it.
A song I recently fell in love with again is from the variety show special. So there's like a little sketch before that where Zorak is playing a dentist operating on Brak, and Brak is very afraid. And at the end of the sketch, he goes, "Help me, magic toenail, take me away." And he fades away into like a field full of flowers. And then he sings a song about his magic toenail.
Wow.
And it's like, I should just scoff at that and say that's just random nonsense, but it's funny.
Yes.
He's almost brought to tears while singing about his magic toenail.
Well, just him scream. Well, yeah. Oh, the sound. Andy Merrill, whenever he does it later, and when they draw Brak, or they use the shot of Brak with his eyes closed as he's talking, it's just like, I just don't want that. You really feel it. Like, it's like, yeah. And here, also, he just has such pure love for his father. That's what I love about Brak, too. Even when Dad is an asshole.
Yes. Let's hear Dad's plan.
It's time I did something about this.
What you gonna do, Dad?
I'm going to run against Galrog for president.
Holy gherkin pickles, Pop! Are you ready?
I'm going to run. I'm going to win, and there'll be some changes around here. Not all of them for the better, either. And if my subjects don't approve, well, that's too stinking bad, because I am the king now!
Don't you mean president?
Woman, must you always bring me down when I'm at the apex of my passions?
I'm not sure if this is such a good idea. Galrog has done an excellent job as president. The neighborhood's clean, it's safe.
Blah, 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 blah.
Wow, President died. Ooh, can we have an army of gorillas? Because that would be fantastic, man.
Draft a proposal. I'll see what I can do.
Fantastic.
Come on, Brak, let's get started. We have much work to do.
It's cruel, but I like what a petulant dick he is to his wife. There's not anything clever he says. He just goes, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, also, when he says, why must you cut me off at the apex of my passions? That sounds like something from the bedroom. It's happening there.
Oh, yeah. Well, we find out their love life is not very good.
Yeah, he has many jokes about, like, well, some people want freedom and not have to be tied down with marriage, but they have to do it. And in the Sandworm episode where Weird Al is a character in it.
Party time, fun time, yeah.
Yes.
I think of Petroleum Joe.
Petroleum Joe, yeah. When they get eaten, dad is scared because he's like, but I am a virgin. So it's definitely implied that mom has never had sex with him and he is not the biological father of Brak, which Brak is too stupid to get that his mom looks like him. His dad does not.
His mom is a Brak-style creature, a cat woman, if you will.
Which I love that. Yeah, she's 50s mom, hot 50s mom, but also a cat creature with a Brak mask as well.
I love that Brak mask.
Yeah.
So it's evening later on when it was evening, and Dad, he's working fast because he's already planted a story in the paper about Galrog.
So they can reuse the animation of him holding up a paper.
Where he, raised the speed limit in the neighborhood to 140 miles per hour, and he put a fake quote in the paper. If you don't like it, then stay off my friggin' streets.
Yes.
And bite me while you're at it.
I like to, as he says he's going to run for president. He's like, there's going to be changes. Not all of them good.
Yes.
Like he's, I think probably I was so extra political anti-George W. Bush at the time.
Me too.
That maybe I was disappointed that this ep was not more directly like saying that George W. Bush is a bad president. And it's really just like, I mean, it is a political episode, but it has a very innocent moral to the story of politics as well.
And Galrog, despite his appearance, is a pretty straight shooter,
Yes, yeah.
His initiatives work.
Yeah, I suppose there are some tendencies of Dad that fit with what the comedy perception of George W. Bush was at the time.
Yeah, just like a prideful jerk.
Yeah, and a big dumb idiot.
Yeah. So, obviously Mom is disgusted by what Dad is doing to Galrog, and he replies, "That's politics, baby. The best liar wins," which is true.
Totally true. Yeah, which is, I feel like the ending then should be different because he's a better liar. But, yeah.
Finally, we get to hear Dad's campaign commercial.
Dad promises sunny days and perfect health for everyone. Galrog wants to destroy your beloved pets with pet bombs that he makes in his evil garage. Dad promises to give free money to anyone who wants some extra money. Galrog wants to take your money and buy a golden knife so he can stab you with it in the heart. Dad is a loving father and a faithful husband. Just listen.
Dad is a good father and very sexy to boot. He'd be the perfect man for the job. Any job, ladies.
I never said that.
Quiet, you're missing it.
Galrog doesn't have a family. He's a bachelor, if you catch my drift. And he's letting the neighborhood go to hell in a handcart, my friend.
So for whatever reason, that line about using your money to buy a golden knife so it can stab you with it in the hearts, that really stuck in the heads of me and my college friends. We would often mention and reference the golden knife.
That's good. That a golden knife is key in the story of Eternals, Bob.
Really?
Yes.
Don't tell me more.
But no, that's a great line. A golden knife to stab you with it.
He's a bachelor. if you catch my drift.
Yes. No, that was the one that always stuck with me. I'm just like, bachelor. If you catch my drift, like that. That also shows how much times have changed in 20 years. One, that you could just do a joke about like bachelor, you get it, and then secondly, that we would be much more supportive of the Dad wanting to wear high-heeled shoes. Just buy them for yourself and wear them. Don't be ashamed.
The world has changed in 20 years.
Yeah. But I also love the chyron of Dad's adoring wife over that terrible imitation of her.
Yeah, it's the Conan O'Brien effect of having the moving lips over the still picture.
With
job, ladies.
Yeah, and that you can see his little pencil mustache visible in it too.
And then we get some classic early aughts pimp humor.
Yes,
but I like the effect is so bad where it's a split screen with two Zoraks. One is a pimp, one is a sex worker, and they're just kind of using like blaxploitation lingo, like suckers.
One, I like that Zorak had no problem with dressing as a classic prostitute from 70s films, and that they could have gotten away with a joke of just like two Zoraks clearly on screen. They just paste them on top of each other, but to go the extra mile of the editing to show that it's a bad split screen that barely matches up, but not really. You can tell it was two different days and places. I like that a lot. Yeah,
it's funny that Dad admits it's fake, where he says scenes like that will not happen in my neighborhood when I am president. So he's like, we just made that up, but I promise you that won't happen.
That scene, I mean, that also is very successful political cartoons. Like, or political campaigns. Could you imagine this thing that might happen did? Well, it won't when it's me. Yeah. It's mostly about imagining a thing. Like, you just replace these pimps and hoes with critical race theory. And you've got current politics.
You just have to like film the end of the slippery slide and be like, that's what we'll be if you don't elect me.
See?
Yeah. So Mom is horrified by this. Dad is just like, what do you think of Zorak? Oh, pretty good.
Yeah. And he mentions like, even for what I paid him, which by the way, like you're not going to get mail the rest of the week. So he paid him in
Stolen
allowing
mail.
Zorak to steal the mail. He's like, you can just steal the mail the rest of the week.
He gave him the go signal on the I Steal Your Mail game.
Yeah, which and then they could only prevent him from stealing their mail before because he was in prison and just got out on bail before that. Yeah.
Mom says I'm going to bed. Dad thinks she's feeling frisky, but she's obviously not.
Yep, yeah. It's closed for business tonight, old Dad.
And finally, the star of the show, Brak, shows up with a campaign song for Dad.
Hey, Dad, I've been working on your new campaign song. You want to hear it?
I'm not in the mood right now, son.
Well, I'm pretty much going to do it anyway. Here we go.
That's the one, don't you know? Scoop-a-doodle-daddle-deedle-o. Now, I'm not sure what he can do, but he knows the beetle-deedle and the biddle-daddle shoot. Everybody in the house say daddle-do. Thank you, Lord, for the daddle-diddle-do. A daddle-diddle-daddle, but for Dad.
Brak, you've done it. You've captured my essence with a classic jazz flavor. Brilliant! Now let's see what I'm doing in the polls.
Finally, the latest polls show Dad leading incumbent Galrog by a significant margin. This has prompted Galrog to accept Dad's offer to a televised debate. Galrog has not appeared in public for over 1,000 years. Wow, that's a long time. Good night.
So yeah, there's our song for this episode, and it does feel clearly improv. Actually,
Yes.
Andy Merrill, when he would like wear Space Ghost crew jackets or whatever out, people would find out he's Brak. They'd be like, "Oh, sing that song from that one Cartoon Planet sketch," and he was like, "I sung it once and I made it up on the spot. I don't know what song you're talking about or how to sing it." So it feels like a lot of these songs are improv because they would just take existing library tracks they had and then goof around with their own lyrics on top.
All of every free one that's just the needle drop they can pull out of the gigantic Hanna-Barbera library. Yeah, I don't think now Andy Merrill would do a Louis Armstrong voice, but I don't think it's too bad.
You just call it Cookie Monster.
Yeah, you know what? It's Cookie Monster. There you go. But yeah, just I think one of my all-time favorite Brak jokes on the Brak Show I remember was when it comes time for the trumpet solo, their mouths just move.
Yeah.
Like, it's so
And
good.
hey, it's good lip sync on trumpet sounds.
Yeah,
Despite how, few mouth movements they have on this show.
I also think it shows where they're at. This is basically like halfway through the run of the series that Brak shows up like, well, it's time for my song. And Dad's like, I really don't want it. He's like, well, I'm going to sing my song anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, there's got to be one new Brak song per episode at least.
It's mandated.
Yeah. but then the dad loves it anyway, which is
Brilliant.
great. Brilliant. Yeah.
So, Dad's happy. Brak is singing his dad's song before coming across Thundercleese, who thinks he's trying to jam his circus with this awful song. But unfortunately, we find out Dad is in over his head.
Your father doesn't know what he's getting himself into. Galrog is not only a wonderful and effective neighborhood president, he is also a very dangerous entity.
Come again?
Hundreds of years ago, before he settled into retirement, Galrog was a terrible planet-devouring monster.
Huh?
No one, not even armies, could defeat him. Of course, that was before the days of Thundercleese. Thundercleese!
Wow, that was neat. Do it again.
No.
Oh, man.
Galrog's tenure as president has tamed his rage. If he were to lose this election, who knows what fury he will unleash. Your father is in grave danger.
Oh, no. I gotta get to the debate and save my dad.
They use that whoosh sound a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever
that
Brak
was.
enter, like,
also to cover they have walk animations for Brak and Zorak, but they don't have running. As much. Yeah.
They have the one walk cycle.
Every time on a Brak show, they try to set up stakes. It's just so funny. It's like, no, this is a silly show. It's not actually like no one's in danger. No one's in trouble.
Yeah. I mean, they might end in a bad place, but it's just going to reset like a sitcom would.
Yeah, but in this case, it's different than the one where he doesn't want to dissect a clam that I just rewatched. That is another of my favorites because there's 6 minutes of that is just like a character shows up to just dick around and have nothing happen, and then the character leaves, and Brak even says, well, that was a big waste of time.
I love the glorious waste of time some of these early shows were.
Yeah.
But they had fun with it.
They were shoving it in your face like, we're wasting time, and that's why Venture Brothers stood out so much on that channel, because this is the anti-time waster
Yeah.
show. It's like, we have no time for anything. We have too much.
They care about characters and telling stories that matter.
But Thundercleese saying like, no, he's in great danger. And just hearing, I love we got the Thundercleese music sting too, like Thundercleese.
And his big pose.
Yeah, so fun. And a rare time where Thundercleese gets to do something where he's not interrupted by Zorak like making fun of him or driving him crazy.
Zorak is now stealing Brak's mail, so he's busy right now.
I think too the way Thundercleese started like thousands of years ago, I was like, he sounds just like the ghost of Christmas past of the present.
Yeah, I think this aired after that, but maybe it was in their bloodstream or in their brains.
It's just funny to hear a robot character say like thousands of years ago. Next, I'm regretting now that we didn't do that for this Christmas, but
there'll be plenty of Christmases to come.
Yeah.
We hope.
Yes.
We cut to Learn More High School at night, hosting the big debate. Brak runs in to warn Mom. If Galrog loses the debate, he's going to eat everybody, including Dad, especially Dad.
Yeah. And I love his just like squashy, stretchy, After Effectsy way of zipping in like, Mom! Like just that he zips into frame like that.
Brak cries a lot. And it's like I'm saying, he's got to lose to live.
Every time, just hearing Andy Merrill is just so funny himself when he's Brak going like, I just don't, please, Space Ghost, don't do. And then just the eyes closed.
Just the eyes closed is enough to sell it.
I think it really is. They just got a blink effect from like one shot of Brak blinking in the original thing and then have his mouth movements go independent of that, and it just works.
The voice acting is so good you believe the 3 frames of Brak you see as a person.
That's why it's great all that voice actors get their credits up front, because C. Martin Croker's original art in this and the other animators, he's good and they did a good job with the limited budget, but they can only move so much that you need appealing voice actors to make it work.
You need loud and very standout voices for these shows. So Brak's mom is not worried. She assures him with, do you ever really listen to your father? The things he says?
Yeah, I love that. Because multiple episodes ended with like a dad giving his wisdom, and he just
you see Brak, and then he would give a really bad moral while they play the Tinkly theme song.
With like impossible analogies of like, well, then put your feet on your head and your pants to your elbows, and this is Mom just finally saying like, haven't you noticed in this entire show he just says crazy things? Like he's not a normal guy.
And Brak is like, well, of course I listen to Dad. He's the smartest guy I know. And Mom just says, chip off the old block.
Yeah, well, that is perfect too. That why is Brak such a stupid innocent that he has this idiot weirdo telling him life lessons that he just goes like, wow, okay, I'll do it, Dad.
So finally we have the debate.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Let's meet the candidates. First, the challenger, Dad.
Oh, your father looks so handsome.
It's surprising. He's much taller in person.
And now, please welcome your Neighborhood Association President, Galrog.
He didn't even wear a tie. What a clown.
Dad will present his opening statement.
You've all seen my commercials. You've read the papers. I don't even know why we're here. Just vote for me. I will win, and that will be that. Your turn, big boy.
Galrog wants to discuss the issues.
Issues? Sure, fine. Go ahead. What's on your mind?
What are you going to do about the sidewalks?
Sidewalks? Who uses sidewalks? Not me. I will tear them all up and make a giant pile of jagged concrete for the kids to play on.
Galrog would repair the sidewalks and build a new park for the children to play in.
Well, sure, hot dog. Spend all the money on yourself. Hey, do you believe this guy?
So Galrog is what looks like a dragon shoved into a tower with all these spikes coming out of it and just giant feet coming out of the bottom and his head poking out of the top.
He is one of those like very C. Martin Crokery like drawings of a pile of pointy things. Like,
that really can't move, so you never have to see Galrog move around.
No legs that have to move. Characters that just slide around without legs. Just like Galrog's design actually reminds me a lot of the German space alien dude that Andy Merrill voiced on Aqua Teen.
Oglethorpe?
Oglethorpe, yeah. Just these weird, immovable piles of guys from Space Gataz. And it's like darker on the stage, but it's framed like, no, we see Galrog right there, so it's not like a dramatic reveal like, oh, he looks like that. You see him in shadow, but not a lot of shadow.
Dad is very small, but Galrog would still dwarf any human.
And it's something, too, I really like in the world of the Brak Show, that it has all these trappings of a 50s sitcom, but every character in the show other than Dad is a sci-fi weirdo from like other shows. Like a giant eye will show up, or like nobody's a human. Dad is the only human in the show, pretty much.
Outside of when George Takei was on the show,
right.
That's the only other human I can think of.
Yeah, and then just all of a sudden, a Dune-style sandworm will pop out of the ground, and Thunderclee seemingly flies into outer space whenever he feels like it. Like, it's just a very tenuous world this is built upon. Same with Galrog.
And who's to say that Dad is even a human? The way he can grow, like we saw him grow.
That's true, yeah. If I was his strategist, I'd tell Dad, you need to run as a reformer. Don't just say all this crazy stuff. Say, oh, well, Galrog, you're going to build that playground for the kids. You've been president for 1,000 years. Why haven't you done it yet? You know?
Who's going to pay for it?
Yeah, and who's going to pay for it? Probably all is put upon people like Dad, you know what I'm saying?
The debate continues, and they go on to ask about the security watch. And Dad is obviously confused, saying, well, I've never heard of that, but I like to watch TV. And then he goes on to talk about if he was president, he would use his power to unscramble some of those some of those channels at the top of the dial. You know the ones I'm talking about.
You know the ones. Yeah, I love him say, like, hey, I'm a visual guy. I can't just hear what's going on.
Hey, as a teenager who watched some scrambled porn in his day, I appreciated Dad's calls for reform.
This is speaking to Adult Swim's audience. The second you say, like, the channels at the top of the dial, every kid, all the teen boys watching this knew what he was talking about for sure. Yes.
So the debate continues on.
What about the sewers?
Hey, you say sewers, I say water slide.
Enough of this. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been a fair and efficient president for over 1,000 years. This man offers you nothing but empty promises and slander. He's dragging my good name through the mud.
Galrog, a good name? No. Lawrence. Now there's a name you can set your watch by. What do you say, folks? Lawrence?
How about Stanley or Willard?
I like Galrog better than that.
Eat it.
I will destroy you.
Yeah, just like you did all the pets with your pet bombs you built in your garage.
I don't have a garage. My wife turned it into a sewing parlor centuries ago.
Your wife? Who do you think you're fooling, Mr. Bachelor?
She's right over there.
Hi, honey. You're doing great.
You sewing, Daddy?
You see, neighbors, this man's campaign is based on nothing but lies.
Exactly. And that's why I'm going to win.
And it should be noted that there's nobody really watching this. That's why the reaction is very muted.
Yes, yeah.
So, I think the joke is when Dad is announced, no one claps for him. And then when Galrog is announced, only a few people clap for him. So, there's nobody there.
I guess the final vote totals in the last scene is 17 people voted. So, even if you add kids to it, it's 21. And I like, too, that he loses even Zorak. Zorak's on his side. He's like, no, you know what? Even your suggestions are bad, Zorak. And Zorak tells him, eat it. I love that.
It feels like the stealing the mail gig ended for Zorak. That's why he's changed his allegiances.
I did like, to go back to that New Year's thing, seeing that they made the distinction of the Zorak on Brak Show is a separate Zorak from the Zorak on Space Ghost.
It was fun to watch old Cartoon Planet sketches because within the span of 10 seconds, there would be 3 different Zorak drawings, all different colors.
I love it. Every time, now he's got the blue gloves. Now it's the orange vest. Now it's him from a different, but just seeing a Zorak blink.
Blunk, blunk.
But the Zorak in this, all original drawings. Nobody's I think they even just traced over old Brak drawings to have it be technically a new Brak drawing in this.
They could not go back to those crusty old video edits of old Space Ghost.
Though watching this on 4K TV on HBO Max, I was like, I'm seeing the corners here. I'm seeing the artifact.
The resolution it was rendered in is not really fit for your 4K TV.
But and also an idea of a wife turning the garage into a sewing parlor. That's perfect, old guy thing. I love that specificity.
Yeah, his wife and his son look just like him, except one has a wig and one has like a baseball hat.
That way you get to reuse the old design and just draw a thing on top of it. You know?
Clay Croker is very overworked, people.
Yes, I'm not calling him lazy. I'm saying he's getting he's cutting every corner he can to get this stuff in on time.
Let's hear how it all wraps up.
I can't believe I lost. 14-1? Mother, you voted for Galrog?
I went with my gut, babe. What can I say? I like sidewalks.
Well, you know what I'm about to say. I'd rather have a live dad than a dead president.
Speaking of which, can I get you to sign the back of this check?
Ah, you want my autograph?
Yeah, sure. But write Thundercleese.
Where are you? I want my paycheck!
Hey, put a rush on that, will you?
So he's back to stealing Thundercleese's mail, and he wants Dad to endorse a check coming to Thundercleese.
Making him a party to,
Yeah.
the theft. I like that transition. He said dead president, speaking of which, meaning money.
Yes.
Dead president money. That's
Brak is being very clever.
Yeah.
And I just remembered something because I was watching a lot of these, and they make fun of old sitcoms a lot. So when Zorak comes in for the first time in the first episode, he goes, hubba dubba do. And that's the last thing he says. And I think that came 12 years before Wubba Lubba Dub Dub.
That's right.
But it's the same kind of joke, so
Yeah, I would bet Justin Roiland watched this show.
Sure.
I would think. But yeah, I mean, it's the dynamite. It's people enter or everything Urkel said in our childhoods. Yeah,
just a very cynically engineered catchphrase.
Yeah, which is funny because they're then trying to reverse. So Zorak was the breakout character first on Space Ghost, then Brak outpaced him, and now with Brak in the lead, they reposition it for Zorak to be the breakout guy. Like, no, Zorak's the Fonzie of this show.
Yeah.
When he already was the guy that Brak surpassed. It's a weird cycle.
But it does feel like the writers are more interested in Dad because he can do worse things than Brak.
Yes.
And it's more fun to write that. So Dad, I think, shares at least equal space with Brak in this show.
Well, and, Brak, a lot of the stuff he says is just Andy Merrill being, himself. But if you're a writer, you can just have fun writing a truly ridiculous thing that George Lowe will just pull off so well.
He'll do it perfectly.
Just have him scream about pumpkin meat in a grocery shopping cart or whatever.
And the credits, over the credits, we hear a remix of the Dad Per President song, and it's basically Andy Merrill improving over it. And he's saying, hope you like the show. If you didn't like it, then watch something else, which was the Adult Swim motto.
Yes,
they didn't care about turning you away. They dared you to watch their shows.
One of my all-time favorite Space Ghost lines, in the episode he wrote, I believe it's called Pavement, because Pavement was one of the guests. He goes hey, stupid viewers, change the channel. You'll be back. Just that he said that out loud. Here it was nicer. It's just Brak in his Cookie Monster voice just saying if you don't like it, watch something else. You'll like that too. He's not saying, screw off, watch something else. He's saying, watch something else. Maybe you'll like that.
Yeah.
I want you to have a nice time.
It's a friendly suggestion, not screw you, pal.
Yeah. Go kick rocks, loser. No, Brak genuinely wants you to like a show. That he hopes you find another show you enjoy, even if you didn't like this one.
But this was a fun episode.
Yeah.
They're all really fun, I will say. I think the show lived long enough. I think it really made the most of its premise.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it could have went on for more than 3 years.
No, I do wish Brak just kept showing up more in other contexts. They could just do another show of Brak, or Brak could just be a regular host on Adult Swim or whatever. Every time he came back when I was watching Adult Swim regularly, just they recorded a new thing and Brak just introduces something, or just hey, it's me, Brak, remember me?
It just makes me think I'm always just happy to see and hear Brak.
Yes.
And Andy Merrill should be on Cameo because he could be cleaning up.
Oh my God! If he wants money, he needs to know this. I don't know if he knows this.
We should tweet at him.
He's got that Brak puppet.
Yeah,
a Brak puppet wishing you a happy birthday and singing you an off-the-cuff birthday song. I'd pay $200 for that easy.
I think, he could just make a living off that for life. And before we talk about our final thoughts about the show, there was also, after the show went off the air, they made an announcement Brak will be coming back as webisodes, and there was only one of them made, and it's no longer online. It's called Space Adventure. It came out in May of 2007, and I was reading reviews of it. People didn't seem to like it, but I couldn't find it to watch it. So I guess their plan for that was scrapped. Their plan for this online media was scrapped, but at one point in time, they planned to bring back Brak Show as a web show.
Wow, Brak webisodes. There were so many webisodes at that time. What a funny concept.
Which is why the writer's strike happened.
That's right. It was the Office.
One of many reasons. Sorry, one of many reasons.
Well, yeah, but I mean, a head reason, like on a big time WGA show like The Office, they were like, why are we making web shit for you guys? Like, we want some more money for that. And wow, I would have liked to have seen that, because definitely by 2007, AdultSwim.com was going strong. Like, that's how I remember moving here 2006. Season 2 of Venture Brothers is about to debut. And I'm just like, oh, God, I don't have cable yet. What am I going to do? And then I find out, like, oh, yeah, Adult Swim will just air it instantly. Like, you can watch that first episode the same day. Actually, sometimes beforehand, the season premiere was on AdultSwim.com first.
It was like they would air on Fridays online before the Sunday TV airing.
They were aggressive with online media, ahead of a lot of their other cable compatriots at Turner, for sure.
But yeah, it's an enjoyable show, and if you were down on this when it first aired, I say go back to it on HBO Max. There's only 28 of them, and they're all like 9 minutes long, so it's like basically 4-ish hours of Brak content, and the songs are fun. They go by really fast.
Yeah.
It's honestly a podcast.
Yes.
I mean, not to discount the work of the artist, but
no.
It's held aloft by the voice acting because they have so little money to play with in terms of animation.
On my morning workout routines the last couple days, I had downloaded like 10 episodes on the HBO Max app and just hit play while walking, and I just listened. Like, if I stopped at a corner, I was like, okay, well, this looks like a funny drawing. All right, now back in the pocket.
And Andy Merrill is on YouTube. He's on Twitter. I follow him. His Twitter name is @Merrill2, 2 R's and 2 L's in Merrill. And his bio is, I write and do voices for stuff. I am the real dang Brak. People like Brak, don't they? And he's in Burbank.
Tell him you love him. Say that you miss his Brak and you want to hear about it. And tell him to go on Cameo. Say we'll pay you money, as the kids say to Homer about his elephant. Say that to Brak.
Meet Brak, $1. Talk to Brak, $2.
Yeah, I guess my final thoughts on it are, I like it more than I did when I was 19. When I was 19, I liked it fine, but I was like, I'm a grown-up now who likes edgy stuff. And now as a 39-year-old, I just think like, oh, this is a nicer show. And I think it ages better because of that. I still have such a warm place in my heart for those original Aqua Teens and C-Labs. When we rewatched them, there's some collar-tugging moments there that I'm like, boy, times have changed kind of things. You get way fewer of those in the Brak shows I've rewatched.
That's true. That's true. Very few suspect things because they weren't trying to be edgy.
Yeah, and like you said, Andy Merrill's just a nice little angel.
He's a lovable guy, and I wish him the best, and I hope he has a new show or more gigs or something. Just Andy Merrill, he rules.
Yes, the best, yes.
So thanks again for listening to another episode of What a Cartoon. If you want to support the network and get all these shows 1 week ahead of time and ad-free, please go to patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. Sign up for $5 a month to get just that, but also access to everything behind the $5 paywall. That includes all of our limited miniseries, over 100 episodes of those so far we've made over the past 4.5 years. The one we're doing right now is called Blabbin' About Batman, the animated series. That is 10 new episodes about our 10 favorite episodes of Batman, the animated series. You can only get that behind the $5 paywall at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. New episodes to the end of 2021 of Blabbin' About Batman, the animated series. And we have a $10 level as well. When you sign up for that, you get access to all of the $5 stuff, plus access to one mega-long podcast once a month, only for patrons of that level or higher. And what is that, Henry?
Bob is talking about the What a Cartoon Movie podcast. You get to hear it in your free feed, a preview of it each month. Just a couple weeks ago, you got to hear us talk about Batman Beyond Return of the Joker coming very soon. You would get to hear us talk about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, but you can only hear the full podcast, often over 4 hours long, if you are a subscriber at the $10 level at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. We've been doing the What a Cartoon Movie premium podcast for over 3 years now. That is a giant back catalog you get access to at the $10 level, and a new one each month. Films as varied as Akira to a Goofy movie, Beavis and Butthead to America to The Lion King, and so many more. You can check out that entire listing if you go to patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons.
So as for me, I've been one of your hosts, Bob Mackey. You can find me on Twitter as Bob Servo, and my other podcast, by the way, is Retronauts. That's a classic gaming podcast all about old video games. Find that wherever you find podcasts, or go to patreon.com/Retronauts. Sign up there for 2 full-length bonus episodes every month. And Henry, how about you?
You can follow me, Henry Gilbert, on Twitter at HENEREYG. I'm tweeting up a storm there, and you should also follow on Twitter at Talk Simpsons Pod, because that is the official Twitter account of this podcast network, where if you follow it, you stay up to date on new episodes going live on the Patreon or on the free feed, or whenever a new miniseries launches, whenever there's a poll, whenever there's news going on in our lives. You stay up to date on all of our podcasts if you follow at Talk Simpsons Pod on Twitter. So please do that today one more time, at Talk Simpsons Pod.
Thanks for joining us, folks. We'll see you again next time for an extended free preview of our What a Cartoon Movie episode all about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and we'll see you then.
Goodbye, 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 everybody.
So long, folks. See you soon. Hope you love the show. Come on next time if you liked it, but if you didn't like it, then watch something else. Oh yeah, Scallylato, goodbye, Brak.
Grandma, can I have the chocolate chips?
This secret recipe moment made possible by Emory Heart and Vascular Center. When Grandma needed heart care, she came to Emory. The difference? Emory Healthcare performs more heart procedures annually than anyone else in Georgia, which means better outcomes for our patients. And we offer advanced and personalized treatments developed by our top specialists that others don't. Like Grandma knows, where you start your heart care matters. Smart Cookie. EmoryHealthcare.org/smartcookie.